Welcome back to Fueled by Coffee Podcast. My name is Matt. I am your host, and I welcome you all to another episode of Season 4. I am joined by a guest who has been on before. He was on one of the Brews and Tunes album reviews. I'm here with Tyler from pop-punk band Second Suitor. Tyler, welcome back. We are excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. I had a blast talking about the Blink-182 album last time.
For sure.
For this time, this is awesome. Thank you for having me.
Sure, man. For those who haven't heard the episode, we reviewed and dissected Enema of the State by Blink-182, so go check it out. It's a fun one. For those who don't know Tyler, he plays guitar and sings for a band called Second Suitor. He is an avid Tennessee Titans fan and a wrestling enthusiast, as am I. Not the Titans fan, but the wrestling enthusiast part.
That's fine. Let me guess. Eagles?
Yeah, of course.
All right, I knew it.
But so we'll get into some wrestling today. We're going to talk some music. As always, we're drinking coffee. I will get into that in a minute. But just to recap, we are well underway into this season of episodes. We've talked about, geeked out with Tommy about Wawa and our love for Wawa. Aaron and I talked about some big life changes, you know, getting married and relocating and new jobs. So like that's a good one.
Love Aaron.
I know. Shout out to Aaron. He's the best.
Shout out to Aaron. Shout out to Pete too. Pete messaged me the other day.
Yeah, dude,
I love Pete.
Pete is a trooper. We did a whole series of Blink episodes, and the one night we sat and recorded like 3 episodes for like 3 hours.
Oh my goodness.
It was a long one.
That's amazing.
But yeah, and then on the last episode, I chatted with an old coworker about our time working together and the unexplained and supernatural. So that was fun. But yeah, so this should be a fun one. As always, as I said, this podcast is centered around coffee. Today, I am drinking so it's from Dutch Bros. Dutch Bros is a Western United States chain of coffee stores, and you can buy coffee from them online, and I got this one around Christmas time. It's their Winter Glow blend. And I actually took a picture because normally sometimes a bag of coffee, you know, it just says it's what type of roast it is, what brand. They actually have a nice little description here. So it's a light roast. So for those who don't know, light roasts are actually better if you're looking for a higher caffeine intake. So it's a light roast, and it says it's floral, citrus, and smooth. It says that it's a balanced blend of coffees from Colombia and El Salvador, and it has fresh notes of grapefruit and floral aromas. So there's some citrus in there. Very interesting. You know, it was weird.
Yeah, it was like, wait, you're talking about coffee still, right? Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's gotta be delicious.
It's really weird. So I don't know if I ruined it or not. I put just like some vanilla creamer in it, but I'm getting the grapefruit is coming through, and I always associate grapefruit with this, so I apologize if this is disgusting to you or anyone listening. But grapefruit, so like I went through this phase as a kid where I would drink grapefruit juice, and it just tastes like straight up vomit. So I'm kind of getting that from this. It's not too strong of a coffee. It's, you know, I wouldn't say it's
subtle.
Yeah, it's a very subtle coffee flavor with that hint of grapefruit in it. It's interesting though, for sure. So shout out to Dutch Bros. They were a highlight of my trip to Colorado. Can't wait to drink them more regularly.
That's wonderful.
But and for those who don't know, you can follow us here on SoundCloud. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Fueled by Coffee Pod. Keep up with all of our insanity. And through there, you can buy merch and also sign up for our email newsletter. We're doing a monthly email newsletter with behind-the-scenes content and exclusive merch drops. So be sure to sign up for that. But without further ado, we're going to get into the episode today. So Tyler plays in a band, as I've mentioned, Second Suitor, based out of New York. And I just wanted to ask, you know, how and when did the band form?
Yeah, Second Suitor formed roughly like 4.5 years ago now, which sounds insane to say out loud.
Yeah.
I was in an older band called Lila Ignite for many years.
Word.
Yeah, that was my band. And once Lila Ignite kind of was disbanding, we're kind of going our separate ways. Nothing toxic. We're just all kind of like at that point. I started Second Suitor, and I came down to Philly, and you know the Boot and Saddle on Broad Street?
Oh yeah.
So my good friend Patrick Baer, who I've played in bands with, and I know he's a character down in the Philly scene. He does like audio repairs. He recorded a 5-song EP for me where I played every instrument. And And that one is our debut EP, which is still on our Bandcamp. There's 5 songs, and yeah, I don't know how to play most of those instruments, but I gave it the old college try, and it was a blast, though. It was like just completely starting over again. It was like a new city, new everything. So I like to say Second Suitor was born in Binghamton, but it was conceived in Philly. So there's always a Philly connection with Second Suitor.
That's super cool. Do you remember what the first song was that you wrote for that EP?
Yes, it was the song called Believe, which I wrote for my mom. She always wanted a song for her, and I was like, all right, I'm finally going to do it. This new project, clean slate. And I wrote the song Believe, and that was, I think, the first song we recorded as well.
Super cool. That's awesome. So when was your first show? If I remember correctly, I kind of remember at the time I was hanging out with Aaron a lot. We were working on some music, and I think he played in like one of those first iterations of the band.
He did. Him and Pete both did, actually.
No
actually,
shit.
And Patrick Bear, who recorded it, he came up and played for the first show, too. So the first show was Pete played drums, Aaron played bass, and Patrick Bear played guitar, and I just fronted it.
Oh, wow.
I almost had, when I started Second Suitor, it was almost going to be like a Say Anything band where I was the main focal point, and I would have a rotating cast of friends playing. And then it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. Within the first few months of Second Suitor, I remember doing a weekender where I played in Philadelphia, and Pete and Aaron both played drums and bass for me, and I played guitar. And then the next day, we played up in Syracuse, and my good friend John Shackleton and Nate Pexon played drums and bass. So it was
Super
2 days in a row, 2 different lineups, but the same band. It was really interesting.
That's super cool. Yeah, John's actually a really funny guy. I actually
John's hilarious.
Yeah.
My dad loves John Shackleton a lot. I love John Shackleton, but my dad has a soft spot in his heart for John, for sure.
That's amazing. Yeah, Aaron and I recorded a cover for him. Or he came.
Oh, no way!
He came to Aaron's place to record a Knocked Loose cover, like, I don't even know how many years ago, but I was there. And he's actually reached out. He's going to be on the podcast at some point. So, John, if you're listening, what's up? Shout out.
That's awesome. Hi, John!
But yeah, that's super cool, man. That's awesome. Now, this may be 2 different answers.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you, what was your favorite song that you've written for Second Suitor? And then also, what's your favorite song to play live?
Oh, man. So, little spoiler here. I think since November, I think since this past November, Second Suitor has been working on a full-length album that we're going to be releasing in the near future, hopefully.
Right on.
And I'll definitely say, Believe, we re-recorded it for this new album too.
Ooh, okay.
Because I feel like Micah and James do drums and bass far better than I do. So it's nice to have some real musicians playing this song. But the past, I don't know, let's see. Favorite song to play live, I would have to say Heckfest.
Ooh, that's a
just
classic.
because I feel like the intro kind of really lets people into my head and the Second Suitor vibe, and once it kicks in, it kind of gets a good reaction at live shows. So that one's always been a favorite of mine to play live.
Word.
In terms of favorite songs, there's a couple new ones coming out soon that I think are already kind of pushing their way to the top of my list.
Yeah, that seems to be how it always is as a musician. Like when you're writing, you're writing new music. You're like, oh, this trumps all the old stuff. Like, you know.
I know, and it's like, it's no disrespect to the old stuff, but it's like, man, this is fresh for us still. So it's like, all right, really excited, really looking forward to playing some of these songs live soon, and I can't wait for the world to hear them.
Absolutely. I can't wait to hear them either. I know we threw in on the last episode you were on, we threw in your song Coffee, but I think on this episode, I'm going to throw in Heckfest just because it's such a banger. For those who've never heard Second Suitor, this is their song Heckfest.
I can't sleep, so I stress, eat, and wonder why I feel like I'm dying. I have facial tics from anxiousness, smoke a bowl of manic depression. But I smile, I'd rather make you laugh than cry. It's been a while. I don't take care of myself, I'm in denial. If I can't
So that was Heckfest by Second Suitor. Definitely check them out. You can find their music on Spotify, Bandcamp, basically wherever music can be streamed and bought, correct?
Absolutely. And actually, I encourage Bandcamp because my thing is I always want our music to be accessible to anyone who wants to enjoy it. So if you ever go on to Bandcamp, all of our music is always name your own price. The new releases, the old releases, everything. You don't got money, that's okay. We don't either. So I want everyone to be able to enjoy it who wants it. And yeah, I mean, we're always definitely A-okay if someone would like to throw a couple bucks for a song or something, but if you can't, it's A-okay. We just appreciate you listening.
Absolutely. And one thing that people may not know about Tyler is that he actually runs his own t-shirt printing business as well. So if you're a business or a wrestling federation or a podcast or anyone who needs t-shirts printed, reach out to him on social media because he does some really great work.
It's funny, I'm sitting next to my press right now.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
I'm in my print shop, yeah. This is my whole room right now.
But do you want to just go into like the whole t-shirt printing thing for like a couple minutes? How did you get into that?
Absolutely. I basically when I was in Lila Ignite, our guitarist Tom Jolu, I don't know if you know who Tom Jolu is, good friend of ours, one of my best friends. He taught me the basics of screen printing. We just couldn't afford to get like large runs of shirts made all the time because like a lot of the companies was like you got to get like 25 or 30 shirts minimum, and it was like we learn how to do this. We can print like 10. And it was I learned the craft from Tom, and from there I just never stopped doing it. I printed all of Lila Ignite shirts for like the last of few years of that band, and been printing for Suitor. I don't think we've ever had a t-shirt that wasn't printed by me for Second Suitor, actually.
That's awesome. I love the DIY vibe.
Yeah, you know, to me too, like, it's so cool. Like, I love being hands-on with that. Like, I love being able to literally put my print on something in this band that is worn by people. It's crazy to me.
Absolutely.
And even recently, I get to print some shirts for other bands and friends. Actually, Wednesday, I printed a run of shirts for the band Desolate. Okay. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're freaking cool. And yeah, they had like a quick rush order. They're like, hey, we ran out of shirts. We need like 40 more next weekend. Bang it out. And being DIY, I can sometimes get work done really quick like that, which is so much fun.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you, being that I would say an entrepreneur of sorts, you know, trying to build this brand and a podcast, what is the most difficult part difficult thing rather that you've run into with trying to build a brand or build a business?
That's tough. There's a lot, honestly. It's I don't know. It's tough to like get out to new people sometimes. I feel even as a band, like with the whole pandemic and everything. It's actually a few days ago we played our last tour date, which was over 2 years ago, which is like
it's nuts.
Sad.
Yeah.
And it just sucks. But no, it's a lot of trying to build your own community, I feel, and just being genuine with those connections. And it's something I definitely have not done well in the past, and I'm trying to do much better going forward.
Right.
Just to be a little bit more open about who we are, what we're about, things we love and support, and just looking for the real connections that people who genuinely like us and want to be friends with us. And I don't know, we do what we do because we love to do it, and we would love for it to blossom into something that can, you know, take over our lives completely, for sure. And hopefully we get to do that sometime. I hope it happens for us and for yourself and anyone else who's a small creator trying to bust into the big world, you know?
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not easy, but I think you hit the nail on the head. You got to do it because you love it. And I know, like, for me, I get so frustrated sometimes when I'm not reaching new people or I'm not getting maybe the follows that I want. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to, like, if it doesn't feel like work, then just keep doing it because you love it, you know?
If we're not, like, for Suitor too, it's like, you know, we do our own, like, you know, we recently are in the process of, you know, we have an LLC. We're getting all this stuff taken care of to be a real business, I guess. We don't know what we're doing. We're so dumb. We had a business meeting. We actually had to tell this dude, like, like, our manager's this cat. Like, okay, you sign emails as his name. That's wonderful. But I don't know. It's just, it's so tough. We don't know what we're doing, but our general rule is to have fun.
Hell yeah.
Have fun and be happy, as happy as you can be.
Absolutely. Well, definitely super cool to talk about all of that. For everyone listening, go check out Second Suitor. Go check out Tyler's page on Instagram. What is your Instagram handle?
It is at Tyler_Atletico.
Go
was
check.
my fantasy football team name like 4 years ago, and I don't play fantasy football anymore on any league, so I just used it as my Instagram title.
Word. Well, for those listening, if you need t-shirts made, go hit him up and go check out his band. All great stuff. But now we're going to move on to one of the things we're passionate about. I wore this shirt just for you.
I love it. I know it's funny. I just watched the video you sent me too from when you were at the show again before this. Yeah. Can't wait to talk.
For those who couldn't see with their ears, I'm wearing a CM Punk's new t-shirt since he returned to wrestling in AEW. That's the first thing Tyler and I bonded over.
Yes.
I think you had posted something on your Instagram about, I don't know if it was someone debuting or something, and I was like, oh shit, like he likes wrestling too. That's even cooler.
Hell yeah. Love wrestling.
But yeah, one of the first things that you and I bonded over was our love for this new era of professional wrestling, in that of All Elite Wrestling. You know, I don't know about you, but I grew up a fan of WWE, you know. God.
Yeah.
I was 2006, so I would have been like 8 years old maybe. Probably 8 years old. I got into wrestling because my neighbor next door was into it. And it was one of those things, it's like music, you know.
Yes.
CM Punk talked about it in one of his documentaries about how wrestling and music are so parallel with each other because, like, they're not super mainstream. It's a very niche thing, but it's one of those things that when you get into it, it just envelops you, right? Like, totally immerses.
It takes control. It becomes who you are.
Yeah, and there's just so much to learn and so much to watch, you know, like, because there's years and decades of history and tape on it. And over the years, you know, as I've grown up, I don't want to say I've grown out of WWE, but I just think that the product isn't what it used to be. But it's one.
I haven't watched WWE since the first WrestleMania they did at the Performance Center, like the peak of the pandemic. Yeah. I watched that one, and I didn't even watch the Raw the following Monday, and I have not watched WWE since. Yeah,
and it's really a bummer because it seemed like there was a dip for sure back in like,
oh my God, yeah,
maybe like 2010, 2011, but then when CM Punk got really hot, it seemed to be getting better. And even up through his departure, like I would say up to like 2018, it was good. I watched it every week. I enjoyed it. The pay-per-views were pretty good. But then there was just this point when, like, I don't know what, and it was probably around the pandemic, and it just, I don't know, they just don't know what they're doing anymore.
It's, you know, it just feels like they don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just, I'll be honest too, like, even before AEW, New Japan was definitely pulling me away from WWE, because I would watch New Japan and be like, oh my God, like, you watch this and like, why am I even bothering with WWE? Yeah. Like, these dudes are putting on 40-minute matches that are insanely well-told stories, and they're just brutal. And it's not even the brutality, but just like the raw passion of wrestling that they have is so much more enjoyable to watch.
Absolutely. I'm trying to think of like an analogy for people that may be listening that aren't wrestling fans. So like WWE, I guess, would be like the Apple of professional wrestling.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it.
It's huge. It's very easily accessible. It's safe, I guess.
Yep. That's a good word of putting it too. It's safe. It's very safe.
Yeah, and it's just very like commercially available. So then comes out, I'm going to call it 2018, the all-in pay-per-view I would consider to be the advent of what is now AEW, or All Elite Wrestling. AEW is kind of like, they have a big television deal, but it is more of like an underground. It's grittier. It
feels more for the fans.
Yes, I would agree. And it's more focused on wrestling. Like, I think the problem with WWE, I don't know if you listen to any other podcasts at all, but Matt Cardona, formerly known as Zack Ryder, he
just wrestled my cousin a few months ago.
What? No way.
In Binghamton.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my cousin wrestled him.
That's super cool.
Sean Carr.
Oh, he was on AEW, wasn't he, on Dark?
Yes, he was on AEW Dark. He teamed with Matt Cross, I think the dude's name is. Or not Matt Cross. Dude who has like the crazy like big white hair. And they teamed against like John Silver and Alex Reynolds, Dark Order on AEW Dark.
That's so cool. I love the Dark Order.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah. Matt Cardona had said in a podcast that like whereas WWE, it's an entertainment show. It's a it's a television program, whereas AEW feels like a wrestling show. It's they do their talking, they do their little, promos, but it's not like a Hollywood product. WWE, there's so much like acting and skits and like wrestling has
bullshit.
It's fluff. It has to wrestling has to have an element of drama to it. It's basically a soap opera on steroids.
No doubt.
But it's got to focus on wrestling, and that's what I think I love about AEW is it's a wrestling show, and it has totally like re-sparked my fire for wrestling because I feel like every year I would watch WrestleMania and SummerSlam and the Royal Rumble, and I would almost like be just longing for that feeling I had as a kid. You know? You're like, damn, like maybe this is the year, and it might be a good time, but then at the end of it, there's almost just this like feeling of being let down. Whereas every week we watch AEW and we watch most of the pay-per-views, and I always feel satisfied after watching it. And
exactly. And that's a good point that you made too. Like when watching WWE, I just always felt let down. Like I sat through 3 hours of this and I didn't even it's not. It just irks me too. Like it's always the same redundant stuff. Mm-hmm. The hokey finishes where it's just like it's just boring. It's like let's get I don't know, tell the stories, be dramatic, but like wrestle. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm watching.
Yeah. And I think a big part of I don't know about AEW's times, but there's definitely a lot of wrestling on in that 2 hours or the hour that they're on, Wednesdays and Fridays. But people have looked at with WWE, you're getting a 3-hour show on Monday and is SmackDown 3 hours now?
I think it's 2.
Okay. So you're getting 5 hours of wrestling per week, and people look at Monday Night Raw. It's 3 hours long, average about an hour for commercials. There's been times where there's been 17 minutes of wrestling in a 2-hour span.
Isn't that embarrassing?
It is really embarrassing.
Honestly though, and what kills me too is you get WWE diehards who just they'll never watch anything else, and they just WWE's the best. Lesnar, Goldberg, Roman Reigns. Who cares?
Yeah.
I don't want to see Goldberg anymore. I don't care. I don't.
Neither do I.
I'll be honest too, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of shit for this. I don't want to see The Undertaker wrestle anymore. I don't.
Dude,
it's not enjoyable.
It's funny.
His entrance alone takes 45 fucking minutes. Sorry,
you're good.
I'm getting heated now.
I was just talking with my brother-in-law, and I talk about this all the time because he grew up watching wrestling. He's 10 years older than me, so he witnessed the end of the golden era, and then he lived through the Attitude Era, and he started watching again with me when I got into it, the 2007, 2008 period. Yeah. And he and I have both agreed WrestleMania hasn't been the same. For those who don't know, WrestleMania is the Super Bowl of WWE. It's the big event every year that you spend 8 hours watching, right? But ever since the Undertaker's undefeated streak ended, for those who don't know, Undertaker wrestled at 21 WrestleManias, was never defeated. Every year it was is he gonna lose? Is he gonna lose? And then he finally did. I feel ever since that hasn't been a thing, him being undefeated, and ever since they took away the Money in the Bank ladder match, it's almost just an over-glorified pay-per-view now.
Yeah, it's just, and it's, even watching WrestleMania, it's just boring.
Last year, I really only enjoyed one match on the whole show. And it's
really,
I the Seth Rollins and Cesaro. That was probably my favorite match of the night. Yeah,
and that's two dudes. Don't get me wrong. There are people within WWE I still love. I love the New Day. I love Rollins.
Oh, hell yeah.
AJ Styles will always have a soft spot in my heart.
Hell yeah.
Finn Balor. Mm-hmm. But, God, do you even see or hear from them on the show? I don't even know. I don't.
Yeah, and it's just a shame because you have people that are so talented and they're not exercising them to their full potential, you know?
Yes.
And it's even like last year, one of the main events of WrestleMania was Roman Reigns and now he's Bryan Danielson and Edge. And I was hyped for that match, and I feel like it was like I just had blue balls the whole time. Like I was like waiting for
it to get good.
Yeah, and then it just never did. And it's
That's WWE in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like you're waiting for this something awesome, and it never happens. Yeah. Then you watch Rampage. In the opening match, the dudes are flying around having a great match, and it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, like, that's the cool thing about AEW. So, like, WWE does a monthly pay-per-view, and AEW does maybe like 4 or 5 a year, so they space them out. But they're giving away pay-per-view quality matches on weekly television, like
that point. Yes, exactly. My dad does the same thing. It's like, we're watching a pay-per-view every week.
Yeah, and like Kenny Omega and Christian Cage, that match was on Rampage. Phenomenal. Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson, phenomenal. You know,
so good.
It's like there's just so many matches every week. That first episode of Dynamite where they had that huge brawl with like Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega and the Bucks, and that was like absolute nuts.
That's the one where Moxley like gave him the paradigm shift through like the glass table too, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Right off the bat, here's our product. What do you think?
Yeah, and it's just great. Enough WWE bashing. I think we've made it clear that we once had a love for it, but now it's just not the same. So in comes AEW. Late 2018, there was this event that was organized by a bunch of like independent wrestlers. For those who don't know, I feel like I have to explain terminology because not everyone's a wrestling fan.
Yeah, totally.
So like an independent wrestler is someone who's not really contracted to a specific company or brand. They can go wherever they want, wrestle wherever they please. It's like being a band that's not on a label. You can organize whatever show you want, go wherever you want. So a bunch of high-profile wrestlers were getting out of their contracts, like their contracts were coming up, they weren't re-signing, and they organized this big show in Chicago, and everyone had this doubt about it. It was called All In, and it was one of those things. I think it sold out in less than 5 minutes.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if it was the Allstate Arena or if it was like one of the smaller ones, but it was one of those events where like all the analysts were like, oh, this isn't going to sell out, like this isn't a really big deal, they're not going to get anywhere. Event sold out in less than 5 minutes, and like I watched it because I was like, okay, like this could be really cool. Because the thing is, I think for me, I remember being like a senior in high school, and I found out that Ring of Honor was on TV.
Yeah.
And I started watching Ring of Honor, and I was really into like Kenny Omega, and at the time the Young Bucks, and you know, seeing some of those guys. I think Jay White was like really new at that point. I love
Jay White.
So it's like one of those things where I didn't really get to watch them because I didn't have any way to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, or at least I wasn't sure of how to. But seeing that this event was organized, I was like, damn, I gotta watch this because like this Kenny Omega guy is really good. You know, at the time he had just had his matches with Kazuchika Okada, and
oh my god, I love Okada.
So it's like, you know, they had this stacked match card lined up, and I watched it, and I was like just blown away.
It felt new and fresh, and like this is the payoff you've been waiting for so long that you just never get.
You watched the show, I'm assuming, right? You watched all.
Yeah, I to my knowledge, I remember most of it. I think I watched that one. Okay. I know exactly what we're talking about right now. I'm fairly positive I watched that one.
I think it was it's a good point that you made, that it's like the payoff that everyone was kind of waiting for, because it had that big budget feel of like a WWE show. It didn't feel like a low budget indie show, and it had lots of fresh names that, you know, maybe the casual watcher would not have seen before.
Yeah, and I think they also had a couple names to draw in, like some of like the WWE kind. Like I think like Rey Mysterio was on that card.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah, like God, I'm trying to remember if anyone else was from like a real WWE person, but I know Rey Mysterio was on that. He was in like a triple threat match, I believe, with maybe like the Lucha Brothers. I think like Phoenix was in it or something.
I think Phoenix wrestled Kenny Omega. I think
that might have
wasn't Mysterio. It wasn't like a 6-man tag.
No, wait, yes, that was it. Kenny wrestled Penta.
Yeah.
And then after the match, the lights went out, and Penta got up, and it was actually Chris Jericho.
That's right.
That's what happened. And that was the big name too. It was like, oh my God, Chris Jericho is there?
Yeah. And I think one of the other ones too, that was when they had the first Cody and Dustin Rhodes, Goldust, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
That, or no, actually, you know what? No, that was Cody.
No, that was the first like AEW pay-per-view, wasn't it?
Yes, I'm thinking of Cody and Nick Aldis for the NWA.
NWA?
Yeah. But yeah, so they had some big names from that used to wrestle for WWE. I totally forgot Rey Mysterio was on that card. Holy shit.
I know there was someone who was like, it wasn't Jericho, but someone else. Yeah, Rey Mysterio. I know he was on that card.
But so like the show's a big hit. It's a huge success, and that happened in I think September of 2018, and then I believe I think it was very beginning of 2019 is when they announced that they were starting their own brand because of how well their pay-per-view did, which is AEW. And as I said earlier, it's just like it's a more mature product. I would say it's not as safe. I mean, it's not as safe as in like they're not just trying to do the same thing over and over again, you know?
Yeah. You're compelled to watch every episode because there's something that's going to grab your attention for sure.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's basically just an alternative to the mainstream, which is really cool. And since then, you know, I started watching when their first run of Dynamite came on. I watched the first few episodes and then I wasn't able to really follow along because of like where I was at in my life. But now I try and watch every single week now because I got my girlfriend into it, which is amazing. It's so amazing. Like when I met Kayla, it was like I told her I liked wrestling and she was just kind of like, oh, like, you know, I used to watch that with my siblings when I was a kid and like it's so corny and stupid. But then like I was like, you got to watch it with me. I was trying to explain to her how, like, because she's an artist. I was like, it's an art form. It's a form of expression. And she was like, she just didn't get it. But then she watched it with my mom and I one week. And she, like, you could see, like, the gears turning. And now she bought me the tickets to go see AEW for my birthday. She went with.
Amazing.
And, like, now every week she, like, looks forward to watching it. It is so much fun. And it's awesome.
I love that. That makes me so happy for you, too. My girlfriend Autumn too. I don't think she was as into wrestling at first, and now like even yesterday she's like, "Did you see this on Twitter about this person?" It's like, oh, I love you so much. Like you are the coolest ever.
Absolutely, it's super cool. So I guess I wanted to ask because I get asked this question a lot. Who is your favorite wrestler in AEW currently? Because I have a couple.
Oh my God, I have a couple too. Right now, it's obviously Danhausen, just because he doesn't even have to wrestle, and it's just the greatest.
Danhausen.
I love the Lucha Brothers. I'm really intrigued at this whole like Death Triangle versus House of Black kind of thing they're working towards right now. Something about like just 6 badass dudes all going at it. It's like, heck yeah.
Oh yeah.
God, I love so many people in AEW. Really excited. I saw they kept Brian Cage under contract.
Okay.
And I can't wait for him to come back and do something. I love Brian Cage.
Really?
Oh, love him.
See, I'm not a huge Brian Cage fan, but maybe I just haven't seen enough. I don't know.
I don't get why anyone doesn't. He's a freak, man. He's a giant musclehead who can do the same stuff Ray Phoenix does. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I want to see Brian Cage, Keith Lee, Lance Archer.
Oof.
Just throw them all in that ladder match. I don't care. Just all big dudes in Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, dude, I love Orange Cassidy.
That's probably my girlfriend's favorite wrestler right now, too.
Dude, he's so great. It's
awesome.
It's just
that's
funny.
The thing, too, like, that's a character who you'd never see on the other show. You know, like, they would never let something like that thrive.
Well, and if he were a character, he would just be a manager. They wouldn't let him wrestle.
No.
So I definitely will say, in terms of like a singles wrestler, Kenny Omega is like one that I keep coming around to. He's the reason why I started watching AEW, because I had wanted to watch him and never really had the avenue to. So the fact that he was on TV every week, that really excited me.
He wasn't like commercially available because he was like New Japan, which wasn't really on TV here a lot, and you know, Ring of Honor and stuff. But yeah, once he came to AEW, it's like, oh, I get to see this every week now. Thank goodness.
Yeah. So Kenny Omega's definitely up there. Darby Allin, huge favorite. He's like the next incarnation of Jeff Hardy, who was a favorite of mine as a little kid. So it's like, it's perfect. And then obviously, CM Punk was my favorite wrestler growing up. I mean, Rey Mysterio, I guess, was like my first favorite when I first got in, because he's like a superhero. He runs around in a colored mask and does flips and stuff, And
he's like, always the littlest guy in the fight.
Yeah, and he's like Spider-Man, But definitely, like, once I got into like middle school and that coming of age point in my life, CM Punk resonated with me because he was an outcast like I was,
Yeah.
And just, the whole music thing. And
I like CM Punk a lot too. I like him now more than he was in WWE, honestly. Yeah. Well, he feels genuine, it's real. Not that he ever wasn't, but he has the platform to be that now.
Exactly. Well, and I think it's really cool because when he left, so for those who don't know, CM Punk left WWE abruptly. Like in the middle of his contract, there was a whole legal dispute because he was hurt, he was sick, they weren't taking care of him, and he just like up and quit. And then he was really bitter towards professional wrestling for a long time. Like he was on record saying, I will never wrestle again, I hate wrestling, you'll never catch me in a ring, unless it's some trampoline in my friend's backyard and I have a mask on, like this. But it's really cool because like over time he's definitely healed and like gotten into a better headspace, and he said all this, and then AEW signed him, and he hasn't missed a beat, which is incredible to me for not wrestling for 7 years. He's in his 40s now, and it's just absolutely wild to see him still doing the things that he's always done. Yeah,
it's impressive. Like, you almost forgot that he was the best in the world, and then he shows it, man. He's still putting on great matches, and even his feud with MJF right now is just, I love MJF. He's just the epitome of a great heel.
Yeah.
But even with that recent promo, it's just like, someone on Twitter was explaining, like, this is like a villain origin story, because every villain thinks what they're doing is just. And it's almost like they said, like, MJF created MJF to protect Maxwell. The kid was bullied and stuff. And it's like, oh my God, it just makes MJF like a human. And it's bizarre.
Well, that was the thing when he was doing that whole promo last week. Well, this episode's dropping months afterwards. But when he did the promo, explaining his whole backstory, I was like, damn, like, I hate this guy's guts week to week. I mean, the thing is, so the thing is like, wrestling is a work. It's not that he's actually upsetting me because I know what he's trying to do, but he's just like, he plays his character so good that it's hard not to hate him.
He's I remember, sorry to interrupt you.
You're good.
He wrestled at an indie show in Binghamton it was like the Lucha Brothers were on it. It was awesome. They helped me sneak into the show, and they didn't realize they helped me sneak into the show. But that's another story. MJF, after his match, I remember the whole night he was at his merch table, just jawing with like these two like 16-year-olds, just all night back and forth. And he would not let up or break anything. Like, he was just going at them. That's awesome. It was amazing. Yeah. Like, and this is before I even knew who he was. This is well before AEW was a thing. Like, got to see him at an indie show, and he was very much still that character. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. One of my friends who isn't a wrestling fan, he sent me this documentary on YouTube, and I think it was about like what makes a good bad guy in wrestling. And it's this guy who does like anime analysis and stuff, but he has a couple videos about wrestling. And my friend sent it to me, and I watched it, and MJF was a huge point in one section of the video. And like there's this clip of him, he's doing like an autograph signing and there's like some 6-year-old kid in the picture they take, he's flipping the kid off. Like, he never breaks character.
Who does that? Like, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing about him, is that he keeps it real. Like, so like, there's no such thing as kayfabe anymore.
Nope. It's just him.
and like with MJF, like, and basically for those listening, kayfabe is like, I guess the secret of pro wrestling, like guys being in character. And so often now you'll see like someone will play a total dick on TV, but then on their social media they'll be like, oh, I'm at this Make-A-Wish charity event with my whatever. But like MJF, you hate him on TV and then he keeps it going in real life to preserve that, and I think that is so incredible. And I would never be able to do that.
Honestly, and I know this is such a strange comparison, reminds me of The Undertaker. The Undertaker wouldn't do like social events and stuff to maintain that character.
Mm-hmm.
MJF can do social events because it's the best place for him to maintain that character. But it's like preserving that kayfabe, like you said, and he does no matter what. And It's impressive,
Absolutely. The one thing I just happen to think of too that I really love about AEW is how much they value tag team wrestling. Because here's the thing, I've always loved tag team wrestling. Like when I was a kid, my brother-in-law and we would play the SmackDown versus Raw games, and we'd create our own characters, and we'd do all these crazy tag team matches together. We'd have all the belts. And,
of course.
And so like, and then growing up to the era where I grew up, I'm not going to say it was the best tag team division of all time, but like on WWE, you had like Eminem, you had the Hardys, you had DX, you had Paul London and Brian Kendrick, who I absolutely loved. Deuce and Domino, I know they didn't have like a huge run, but they were a pretty prominent part of the show when I was watching. John Cena and Shawn Michaels were a thing for a little bit, Dude,
Edge and Christian, like the Dudley Boys. I know they're an ECW original, but ECW too kind of like I feel like there's a lot of AEW rooted in ECW too, like that similar vibe of like it's raw and it's real. ECW is obviously extreme, hardcore. And honestly too, like with AEW, I here's one criticism I'll give. I don't care for all the blood all the time. I love it when it's built up, like the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers in that cage match. Bleed. You have to. It's been building. But like Cody didn't need to bleed every week.
Yeah.
Hangman don't need to bleed every week.
Yeah.
I get it, but it's like,
I agree.
on. Like, that's my only knock. Like, I don't know. To me, they don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Even Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa. That match, you have to. I get it. I 100% get it.
Yeah.
But when it's like Hangman versus Bryan Danielson, they're just both busted open. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why did they need to? It didn't. I don't see why they had to have blood there.
I could totally see that. And I think one of my other criticisms too, and I think this is just for wrestling as a whole nowadays, there's way too many like false finishes. Yes. Because like everyone is supposed to have a finishing move, and I'm really tired. Now, it's one thing if it's a big pay-per-view match, or if it's just, like something like you said, they've been building up. It's these two mega stars. It's like it's going to take a lot to put one of them down. But when it's just the match at the hour mark on Dynamite on a Wednesday night, and and Chris Jericho's kicked out of two buckshot lariats, and Hangman Adam Page has escaped the walls of Jericho. It's like you can't.
I get it on a pay-per-view. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like that's definitely rooted from New Japan too, because New Japan has a lot of that big, like everyone's hitting everything. Yeah. You think it's gonna be over, then it's not, and then it's like I kind of like that, to be honest, because it builds that like, whoa, is it? Wait, oh my God, what? Like, I like that personally, because to me it's like the end of a football game with two teams who are just like throwing bombs. Like, who's gonna have the ball last? Who's gonna win?
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just I'm really happy that we have AEW right now, and I really hope that it continues going strong. I mean, I know TV viewership isn't really easy to get nowadays. I feel like a lot of people aren't watching cable TV, and even though you can stream it through like Hulu and stuff like that, wrestling isn't really popular anymore. But it's really encouraging, I think, like when I see things like, oh, they got over 1 million viewers last Wednesday, or
amazing,
and I'm hoping that keeps climbing, because the thing is too. Tony Khan, for those who don't know, Tony Khan is the owner of AEW. His dad owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. He is, and I think this is where WWE differs from AEW, whereas like Vince McMahon is running it like a business, and he's running it as he's always done, like as Vince McMahon sees fit. Tony Khan is very much a wrestling fan, just as much as all of us watching are, but he has the business experience from his dad, maybe, I don't know. Or
well, he's got to be a wrestling fan because it's got to be tough being a Jaguars fan.
Oh, shit. Burn.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Have to. I'm a Titans fan. I can't.
Oh, you're in the same division. I totally forgot about that. See, the Jaguars are so forgettable, I don't even know what division they're in anymore.
You know, get this, though. There's my take on the Jaguars this past season. They only won, 2 or 3 games? I think 3. 2 of those games were so huge in the big picture that no one really caught it. Like, they beat the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
That dropped the Bills out of, the 1 seed contention. If the Bills won that game, Kansas City would have had to go to Buffalo to play the playoffs.
Right.
But because Jacksonville beat the Bills, opposite, the Bills couldn't get it done. I don't know, just weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then the last game of the year, they beat the Colts.
I mean,
I hate the Colts. Everyone all season was like, Colts, Colts, Colts. They're the best team in football. They're going to make the playoffs. They were not even they were America's favorite team because you wanted Hard Knocks to get more attention. But God, they painted the Colts as a champion before the playoffs started, and then they missed it.
Yeah,
it was awesome. My team got knocked out by the Bengals, and that sucked.
Yeah,
and I totally acknowledge that. But man, it was fun to watch the Colts get beat by Jacksonville that last week of the season too.
Damn, see that's how I am with anytime the Cowboys or the Giants lose. I'm happy.
Oh yeah. See, I grew up. My dad is a Cowboys fan, and my mom was a diehard Giants fan. Oof. So that's why I was going to hang out in the AFC South with my own team.
Yeah, there you go. In terms of Ryan Tannehill, I heard some rumors that they may be either trading for another quarterback or trading him away or maybe drafting a quarterback. I'm not a Titans fan, so I can't speak to that. But how do you feel about him given his lack of a performance in the postseason?
You know, I was really bummed after the playoff loss. It's dude,
again,
come on. Because what kills me is Tannehill did great during the regular season. Sincerely.
Yeah.
He lost Derrick Henry. AJ and Julio were in and out of the roster, and Ryan Tannehill kind of kept that team afloat with Deontay Foreman and Hilliard, the other back. They really stepped up and did a lot. But man, just I think Tannehill gets a bad rap. I personally want to see him come back and just light up the league next year. No one thinks he can do it, but I want to see Ryan Tannehill just come back into that when he took over the Titans and play like that. Because he can.
Yeah.
He's shown that he can do it. And I think Derrick Henry's going to go into next season pissed off, wanting to just murder everyone. So, I don't know. No one's ever going to count on the Titans to win. I even picked it this past year. I'm they're going to be a good team, and everyone's already counting them out. Everyone's on the Colts. Colts are going to the Super Bowl. Colts didn't even win the division.
Yeah.
So it's I would rather than roll with Ryan Tannehill. That's your guy. Just Julio, I don't know if they're going to keep him, but I think the one thing for the Titans, Ryan Tannehill has to see A.J. Brown like Deebo Samuel or Cooper Kupp. In that playoff game, the second half, other than the touchdown, the last quarter of the game, he wasn't even targeting A.J. Brown. It's I'd rather you force it to A.J. Brown than to try to throw it to, no offense, Nick Westbrook-Akina, who's a rookie in that game. Force it down the field to AJ. Let him make a play. Yeah. Don't but that also has to come from Ryan Tannehill. Didn't have AJ all season, so he doesn't have as much. I don't know, the chemistry there.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was with the Eagles all season. They drafted Devontae Smith, who was a phenomenal. Yeah. He's a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal wide receiver. Good. He was always making plays, but so from a football mentality, watching them how they lined up their offense. He wasn't always in the number one receiver slot. They had trash ass Jalen Reagor lining up as the one who's an awful athlete. I'm sorry, but and the thing is Hurts was missing, and I love Jalen Hurts. Don't get me wrong, but he was
I think he's going to be a good player in this league.
Yeah, I mean and I'll defend Jalen Hurts until he truly shits the bed like Carson Wentz, because the thing is
for sure.
Because the thing is he was drafted into a different coaching staff, totally different offensive style. Then he gets a new coach, a new offense. Then they change the offense halfway into the season. He needs a full off season, maybe another, like a veteran receiver or another young receiver. They need to solidify their running game because obviously they did that really well. And then give him a full second year with Nick Sirianni. And I think Jalen Hurts could easily be like a Kyler Murray. You know, just
Jalen Hurts, especially with that receiver too. Devontae Smith. Yeah, like to me, that could be a scary connection coming up in the next few years.
Yeah.
There was a few games where Jalen Hurts just kind of took over. He's like, I'm the best player on the field. Stop me.
Yep.
And that kind of has that Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes kind of escapability and evasiveness, you know?
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, I want to say Eagles fans are the most toxic fan base in the NFL.
Let me tell you, I went to my first Tennessee Titans game this year. They played New York Jets in New York. They lost. What's up? Tennessee plays the Eagles next year in Philly. I will not go. I love Philadelphia. Yeah. I hate Philadelphia sports fans.
Yeah.
For the most part.
No, it's awful because
I don't care. Like, listen, we can talk shit about each other's teams. It's fine, but like, you don't play for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You are not a player.
Yeah.
Stop getting mad and fist fighting fucking people.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is like as soon as Jalen Hurts would have a bad game, everyone would hop on the get rid of Jalen Hurts bandwagon.
Get rid of Jalen Hurts. He's trash. He sucks.
Everyone's saying trade for Russell Wilson, and I'm like, guys, do you not realize Russell Wilson is just a washed-up Jalen Hurts who only has a couple years left? Like, why not develop either way? I don't know. If
Jalen Hurts is the guy, and if you don't see it, you're dumb.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Sorry,
that is exactly it. New T-shirt.
Yeah, listen, I love Philadelphia. That city means a lot to me, and I like the Eagles honestly a little bit, just because of like some of my friends who like them. But like, generally, I hate Eagles fans. They are so just toxic, and it's so dumb. Like, be passionate. That's fine. I'm passionate about my team, but I'm also a real person. Like, I'm not like, oh, we're gonna go. No, not we. I don't play for them.
Yeah,
I want the. You're not on the field, bro.
Yeah.
There's no reason to fight someone over something you can't control.
Exactly.
It's like, would you go to a wrestling event and fight someone because the wrestler you wanted to win lost? Like, no.
Hell no.
Like, so don't do it at a football game.
Absolutely. No.
Like, I went to that Jets game, me and my girlfriend did, and we ended up sitting literally like surrounded by like Jets fans, and they were hilarious. They were so fun. They were talking to us too, like, you know, nothing mean, but just like, what do you think? Give it to Henry here? Like, 3rd and 1. Of course you're going to give it to Henry. Like, just, they were having a blast. I'm like, that's something I would never get going to a Philly game.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny. I went to see the Eagles versus Jets game this past year.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, at MetLife. And it was the same thing. It was kind of great. Where we were sitting, it was almost like a whole section of Eagles fans. So, like, we were almost trying to take over the stadium and, you know.
I believe it.
But there were a couple of Jets fans there. There was a family right in front of us, actually. And it was a husband and wife, and I think they had, like, 3 boys. And the one boy out of all of them was an Eagles fan. And they were young kids. And the whole time, the husband, I could feel how depressing it was to be a Jets fan because, like, they're missing penalties and stuff. And he's like, come on, at least give that one to us. We're going to lose anyways. You know? But the
Titans lost the game we saw them. And even the Jets fans were like, yeah, we're not going to win. Like, they didn't think they were going to win at all.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, my God, this is overtime? This is crazy.
Yeah, I remember watching that game, and I knew you were there because I saw it on Instagram, and I was like, holy shit. Like, that's that game that he's at. It's absolutely wild. I couldn't believe it when that happened.
I couldn't either. Like, I've never been to an NFL game, and I was so lucky to get to go.
Neither have I.
My one, like, I mean, it was still so much fun, such an awesome experience. And I like to say, we got to see a Derrick Henry touchdown. Like, that's crazy.
Yep.
And that was awesome. That made my life. And I hopefully my girlfriend and I can make a trip down to Nashville sometime and see a Titans home game.
That would be super cool. Absolutely.
Yeah. Love it. Actually, Pete tried to break me into that stadium, Pete and Aaron.
They tried to break you into the stadium?
Yeah, we were on tour together, and we were in Nashville, and we wanted to go check out the stadium and see the field and stuff, and we tried every door there was.
That's awesome. That's so fun. That's awesome. Oh,
yeah, I love Pete. I feel like him and I were kind of just like 2 idiots on that tour, like perfect friends, breaking shit, being stupid, and Not meaning to, just being clumsy and dumb.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely.
This has been super fun. I want to wrap up on one last point.
Yeah.
So I know that you've watched probably thousands of wrestling matches, as have I, but is there maybe one in your mind that sticks out as like your favorite out of all the other ones? Or maybe it doesn't even have to be maybe of all time, but just on your mind right now, what's your favorite wrestling match you've seen?
The one that comes to my mind right away was that cage match with the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks. That was just beautiful.
Gotcha.
It was just, it was so well done. I was into it, that whole, like, the story of it, the emotion of it, and it was, like, built towards that. And I don't know, to me, that was one of my favorite wrestling matches I have ever seen. It was so much fun to watch, and I think it was special for me, too, because Micah and James from my band, they're not huge wrestling fans, but they came over to watch that pay-per-view with us, and they were just like, holy shit, like, what? Like, so for me, that match will always have a sentimental, like, oh, I love it.
That's the best thing, I think, is when you get someone into wrestling who maybe didn't know how awesome wrestling is, or like when they have that aha moment, like with Kayla or with Autumn, or it's like it's a really special moment when it happens.
It truly is, and I love that. And oh man, I'm sure there's other matches I can't really think of off the top of my head. God, you know what's funny? It's like every match is great, but I always look forward to the next with AEW. It's hard to hang in the past because everything coming up is always like, oh my god. Yeah,
I think for me, definitely, it has always been that the first time Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker had a match at WrestleMania 25, that one was. I don't think I've seen matches that have gotten close to it. Maybe it's because it was my first WrestleMania I ever watched live, but I remember that was like one of the last few matches that had me on the edge of my seat, like, oh my god, like, he kicked out of the tombstone pile driver, he kicked out of the super kick, like, holy shit, but like ever since then, I feel like that's the measuring stick for me, is like, did I feel that same way? And I think that the one match that has come really close to that was Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes at the first, I think it was Double or Nothing.
I think it was as well. That was amazing.
Like, that one, I remember just being like, that was one of the best matches I've ever seen.
Thinking now too, I have another match that I really love, and I've gone back and watched this one a few times too. It was New Japan, the G1 Climax. I think it was the final match. It was Jay White versus Kota Ibushi.
Okay.
And like Jay White, heavy favorite, had the whole Bullet Club and stuff, and Ibushi ends up winning. It was just all the Bullet Club gets kicked out and sent to the backstage, but that match was awesome. That's like one of those like big crazy finishes where there's like a million moves hit and you never know it's gonna be over. Just like seeing Kota Ibushi win, that was so cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. Kota Ibushi's awesome. I always forget about him.
I know, I try not to, but man, I would love to see some more of these New Japan guys come over to AEW, like Ibushi, Okada, Naito, Sonata, Evil.
Yeah.
To me, there's one key ingredient missing from AEW that would just I'm set for life now.
Okay, who is
Dalton Castle?
With the boys.
That is my favorite wrestler. I love Dalton. He made a surprise. He used to wrestle in Binghamton a lot.
Oh wow, okay.
And we used to have 2CW. This is a big company. Now we have Excite Wrestling, which is awesome. 2CW did a reunion weekend. They did Binghamton and Syracuse. They had a bunch of cool names. Stu Grayson and Evil Uno from the Dark Order were in Binghamton.
Okay.
And it was Josh Alexander versus Moose versus Eddie Edwards in a triple threat match. And right, they're about to start, and then music hits, and the boys come out, and fucking Dalton Castle comes out, and me and my dad and my girlfriend lose our shit. It was amazing. And then my girlfriend and I got to go up to meet Dalton after the show. Like few of my buddies work the show and stuff, and a few of the wrestlers we know, and he's like texted me after his match. He's like, meet me by the stairs, let's go up, and got to meet Dalton Castle.
Dude, that's super cool. I remember him being on Ring of Honor when I was watching it, like however many years ago. That's super cool.
I love it. I hope he comes to AEW.
That he would totally fit in there too.
Right?
Oh man, but yeah, super cool. It was really cool getting to see Keith Lee debut too.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Like, cause you know how some episodes, I'm not trying to like downplay it, but some episodes of Dynamite are more like filler episodes if they're in between. Sure. You know, they don't.
Right now, it seems like it because they're like building to the pay-per-view, so they're kind of taking it a little like, all right, don't get hurt, don't, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Which I understand.
But it was super cool. I was like, damn, I'm so glad that we got to see a show. Like, we got to see the Texas Death Match. We got to see Keith Lee. Insane. We got to see, you know, oh my God, the whole CM Punk and Jon Moxley. I lost my shit for that.
I'm sure. I'm sure you did.
The first time I saw CM Punk wrestle, so like, I became a CM Punk fan when he was on ECW in 2006 and 2007. Like, totally, yep. He's the reason why I'm straight edge. So, like, as a kid, I totally...
You mean WWECW?
Yeah. But, like, I latched onto him as a kid, and then, like, they wrestled at Stabler Arena, which is at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, and I got to see CM Punk wrestle, and I think he was wrestling JBL that night. And it was a live event. It wasn't televised.
Yeah, house show.
But like, that was the only time I'd ever gotten to see him wrestle. And then this time, you know, like, he shows up, he does his little promo, like, he's like, oh, I got Sting and Darby Allin to back me up. And we thought that was going to be it, because they had announced a tag team match, but we thought it was going to be like, oh, maybe next week or something.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, you know, FTR comes back out, and then CM Punk comes out. I lost my shit. And then, because we're thinking, like, who's he going to team with, you know? Because, like, who's in the back that he can team with that's not Darby Allin, that's not Sting? And as soon as I saw Jon Moxley's, like, Titantron start playing, I was grabbing my mom. I was like, holy shit! Oh my God! Yeah, I was like, oh, I forgot about him. So, like, that was...
I did not see that one coming, too. That was such a good match.
Yeah, but it totally makes sense, because MJF saying, you know, he totally alluded to it. He's like, who are you going to find in the back that wants to tag team with a low-life piece of shit like you? And you're like, geez. And then Jon Moxley, you're like, he's a low-life piece of shit, you know?
It was perfect, man.
But no, it was such an amazing, that was the first, like, televised wrestling event Okay, I lied. I've been to an Impact taping, but I mean, that's Impact.
I snuck into an Impact pay-per-view in Binghamton.
Oh, word.
Yeah, I snuck right in.
That's awesome. But
yeah, I knew the back entrance.
But it was a super cool experience, and I'm really glad I got to. That was the AEW I went to, for sure.
That's awesome, man. I'm so glad you got to experience that. I hope to get to an AEW show sometime very soon.
Hell yeah. I would definitely recommend going. It's well worth the money. Yeah, but this has been a really fun chat, man. I thank you again for coming on. This has been a total blast.
Dude, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me again. This is always so much fun. Love getting to talk wrestling and music and stuff. So thank you very much for having me.
Hell yeah, absolutely. And for those listening, I thank you all for listening today. Give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram. Follow us here on SoundCloud. Buy some merch. Listen to Second Suitor. And we'll see you all. I'm going to be talking to my friend Ben, who is also a t-shirt printer.
Nice.
A little bit different of a style. He doesn't screen print. He does like vinyl printing or vinyl pressing. But Ben, the t-shirt master, will be back on. Last year we talked about, you know, being in like a music scene. This year, I actually don't have a plan yet. So tune in for a surprise episode with Ben, the t-shirt master. And I'll see you all on the next one.